can't stay together. Don't you feel it too? Still, I'm glad for what we had and how I once loved you. It's too late, baby, now it's too late. Though we really did try to make it. Something inside has died and I can't hide it. I just can't fake it. No, no, baby, it's too late now, darling. It's too late, baby, it's too late. Good night, my love. Pleasant dreams. Sleep tight, my love. May tomorrow be sunny and bright and bring you closer to me. Before you go, please remember I need you so. And this love that I have for you will never grow cold. If you should awake in the still of the night, please have no fear, for I'll be there. You know I care. Please give your love to me, dear, only. Good night, my love. Pleasant dreams and sleep tight, my love. May tomorrow be sunny and bright and bring you closer to me. Before you go, please remember I need you so. And this love that I have for you will never grow cold. Good night, my love.
At first I was afraid, I was petrified. Kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. But then I spent so many nights thinking how you did me wrong. And I grew strong, and I learned how to get along. So now you're back from outer space. I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face. I should have changed that stupid lock. I should have made you leave your key. If I'd known for just 1 second you'd be back to bother me. Go on now, go. Walk out the door. Just turn around now. 'Cause you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you somebody new.
Solomon's Temple.
I'm not that chained up little person still in love with
Pretty
you.
straightforward, actually. I
And
don't
so
really
you felt like dropping in and just expecting to be free. Well, now I'm saving all my love
get
for
like a
someone
perfect
who's loving
exact
me.
model
Oh,
down.
now go.
So
Walk out
what
the
we're going to be
door.
using first is
Just turn around now. 'Cause you're not welcome anymore.
online.
Were you the one who tried to crush
Pull it up.
me with your fire? Did you think I'd crumble? Did you think I'd lay down and
This model here to get the first basically blueprint laid out. Then we can use some interior shots and stuff that I have.
I've got all my life to live, and I've got all my love to give, and I'll survive. I will survive.
The desktop audio a little bit so we can get a little bit of a better sound out of me. So we're going to start off with this right here. This is going to be the basic layout. Take a few minutes of that. We'll take a look. I'm gonna have to first of all apologize. I don't know who's in the chat. I don't know who's watching. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. I'll answer them, and we'll start back up and get the model started for you.
I never can say goodbye. No, no, no. I never can
All right.
say
So
every time I think I've had enough and start heading for the door. There's a very strange vibration piercing me right to the core. It says, turn around, you fool. You know you love him more and more. Tell me why. Is it so? Don't wanna let you go. Hey, I never can say goodbye, boy. Ooh, baby. I never can say goodbye, no, no, no. Hey, I never can say goodbye.
all right. So let's take a look at the initial length here. We have 130 cubits here. And we're going to say that 1 cubit is about equivalent to roughly 18 inches or so. Let's make a note of that. Now, we're going to use just an approximate estimate. I don't think that's completely correct, but it'll get us pretty close to what we need to do. Okay. Let's put something on. So right now we have the current basic layout that we're using for, that I'm using for my model. And you can see we're actually pretty far in the process of getting the basic blueprint out. So it really depends on where you stand on your model right now. And so it also depends on how much you know on SketchUp and some other stuff too. So let's start there. SketchUp is a very, very easy program to understand and comprehend, which means that it's not going to take that long for you to get to grips with it, and once you do, it's pretty easy to do it. So, what we want to do is get a little bit familiar with our controls first. You're going to start off, when you start off with any new document or any new layout, in fact, I'll create, excuse me a sec, a new one for us so we can start from scratch. So when you open up SketchUp, and if you're using SketchUp Web, which is the program that you're probably going to be using for this class, it's going to be a little bit different. Don't worry about that. The controls have just been moved to this side and to this side. It's otherwise it's stayed pretty much the same. Okay, so we have this. This is our blueprint that we're going to use to understand how to build it. We're only interested in this bit here where my mouse is scrolling, this small little thing here. And I'm not sure if you can read the measurements, but I can. So we need to, again, convert this from cubits, 2 inches, into feet, which isn't that difficult. And then we need to, pause this music. And then after that, we need to start laying out the blueprint. So first, let's get familiar with our camera controls. On SketchUp Web, you're going to get a button on the far bottom left that looks something like this. It's going to have this sort of rotational orbit look, and if you click that and you just use your mouse button, you can scroll around and look around in your 3D environment. It's very helpful. It's very handy. You will be using that throughout this build. Here, if on SketchUp Web, if you click there again, it'll open up this submenu and give you this submenu here of other options. One of them is pan. We will need that later on. Zoom, that becomes very useful as we go. And one that I don't really use, zoom extents. We won't be using that primarily for this, but if you need it, it's there. Okay. A couple other things that you have at hand is your line tool. This is what we're going to use mostly to start the build. This is what allows us to make basic lines in the model, like that, and it also allows us to make polygons. So if we connect all 3 endpoints, it makes us a polygon. That's very nice. It's very simple, and it helps. But if you just want to make a polygon directly and don't want to deal with the lines, what you need to do is go into the square rectangle shapes mode. I don't use this because it doesn't give us enough flexibility for what I need to do, but if you want to, let's just say, build a basic square without having to draw all those lines, you can do it right away, like that. And that's what that is. We have an arc tool. We're not going to necessarily use the arc tool for this build, but we also have the eraser. We are going to use this. This allows us to erase polygons and stuff like that when we need it. Also know that there are commands that you can use on the keyboard to make things a little bit quicker, a little bit easier. So, for example, if you need to jump to the rectangle or the shape builder immediately, you just press R on the keyboard and you can just see it jump to R, and all of a sudden I can build shapes again. Press Control Z if you need to remove something, or if you're on Mac, Command Z. When you're using that, you just press Command Z like this, and it'll erase the thing immediately. Now, we're going to start building the temple. So, how does that work? Well, we're going to press the line button, or you press L on the keyboard. And now we want to look at what we have here. In fact, let's pull up a calculator just to make our lives a little bit easier. And we're going to show you what needs to happen. So, it says right here that from end to end, it's using these references here, from the end of the actual building itself to the beginning of the building itself. It is 130 cubits long. So if it's 130 cubits long, we're going to multiply 130 times 18 inches to get the measurement in inches. So we know that 130 cubits is 2,340 inches long. Then we divide that by 12 to get the foot measurement, and we will get 195. So we know that that's going to be 195 feet long, and that is the length of the building itself. So what we'll do now is we'll close that, and we'll open this up. And what I'm going to do, I do not remember how it works in SketchUp Make. I think there's a feature, but you just go to Camera, Standard Views, Top, and that gives us a top perspective view of the model. Excuse me a sec. Hold on. Better. And we are going to use the pan tool, and we're just going to zoom out a little bit. Now, by doing so, what we'll do is we'll take the line tool here and start on this red line here. This is your x-axis. Click where you want to start, and you'll see this green line occurs. It says on green axis, and you'll see on the bottom right there's a thing there that says length. What you want to do is go to your keyboard and enter the foot measurement on the device, on your keyboard, into this length button. It'll do that automatically once you enter keys. So you just press 195, and for foot, we use the foot measurement. So it is a single parenthesis, and click enter. And right there, it builds you your first line. And as you can see, it's 195 feet. So that's your first thing. Now we need to find out how wide the building is. So we're going to go back to our model here, pull this up, and we see here that the measurement they give is 50 cubits long. So again, if we pull the calculator and we just clear that out, and we do 50 times 18, 900 divided by 12, that gives us 75 feet. So we know that it's going to be 75 feet wide. Go back into SketchUp, and from here we're going to go to the top of your line, the line that you drew there. It says endpoint. It'll mark it like that, and then draw onto the red axis, and you enter 75 feet like that. It's very, very simple to do. Oh dear, where are you confused? Well, tell me in the chat where you are confused. I need to know that. If you know how to use YouTube, use it, and I'll explain it. Okay, so while I'm waiting on that response, we're going to continue. So, since we just need to make a square, like the first primary square here, you can see that this shape was a rectangle and then bits of it were shaved off. It's very simple. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make the initial square. So we'll go back into SketchUp and we'll finish the polygon. And you'll see that it'll snap to grid, which is great. That's what you want. In fact, also, if you want to cancel the thing that you're doing, if let's say you click something and you don't want to do it, what you can do is just press the escape key on your keyboard and it will cancel that command for you. That's very helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom back in here and we're going to click the endpoint there and we're going to just drag it and it's going to tell me there now that it's from point. So you want to click it from point and there we go. That's our first I guess triangle or bit of the 3D model that we need done. Excuse me a second. Okay. Now, since we are doing since we have made our first polygon in the model, we can now take a look at what we are doing. So remember, this is from the top view. If we want to look at how it looks right now from a 3D perspective, you can see it really is just a very large rectangle. But from this, we're going to build the temple. And that's what's brilliant about this whole thing. So we're just going to go back to camera, standard views top, zoom back out, pan a little bit so we get a bit of a better view. Okay, and now what we need to do is take a look at how thick the walls are in and around the actual temple itself. So we go back to our 3D blueprint here, and we can see here that there is sort of an outline where it is wall or the outer perimeter, and so that's going to be most helpful when we are making the walls, as well as, excuse me a second, I'm sorry, finalizing the rest of the model itself. So what we can see here is that, let's just say roughly, this is about, I believe, let's say 5 cubits thick. In fact, from what I can make out there, that is a 5, and it's showing us how thick the wall is. So we know that it's going to be 5 cubits. That's how many cubits we're going to need. And so we will do that. So let's go back into SketchUp, pull the calculator up, and let's calculate how much that is, how many cubits that is in inches. So 5 times 18 divided by 12 gets us 7.5 feet. So there's a feature in SketchUp which is very helpful and that we're going to use to help us measure the walls. It's called the measuring tape. And right here it's the measuring tape tool. You'll see it in SketchUp Web when you use it. And what we want to do is we're going to click it, and this allows us to measure and make lines without actually setting them in the model itself. And that becomes very helpful as the model becomes more and more advanced, because what happens is the more lines you draw, the more polygons you make, and as a result, if you make a wrong polygon, things are going to go horribly wrong horribly quick. So we use the measuring tape tool to help prevent that and still help us get measurements and have starting points to allow us to model. So what we'll do here is we will start from the point. We'll start from the very top end point here. We'll assume that this is the back, considering that the person is down here. This is the person. So this is the back of the model, and we know that we need to go 5 cubits wide. So let's go, and it said 7.5. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the length box here and just enter 7 foot 6 inches, because that's 7.5 feet. Click enter, and you'll see that a little line has developed right up there, and that's our first measurement there. So we'll take of how thick the walls are. So we'll take our line tool and we'll just draw that across, and we will measure out again another 7.5, 6 inches right there. And we will draw that line. And if we go to this, and there we go, we'll do 7, 6, there you go, line tool, and just draw it. It doesn't need to be exact yet because we haven't gotten those measurements, but we're just trying to build the walls. Then, what we'll do is we'll pan in, and now we can remove these extra lines here because we won't need them anymore, because this is one continuous wall. So that doesn't mean that we need to keep these parts. So we just go to the erase tool, click E, and just drag your mouse around it, and you can highlight it, see how it turns blue, let go, and all of a sudden it's gone. So there we go. Same thing here. Excuse me. And now we have the walls to the temple. So that's good. So now what we need to do is go back to our model, and we'll take a look at the rest of it. So we can see that this goes, we're going to have to guesstimate here roughly. And I'm going to say that from here we have about, let's see, what does the model tell us? It's about 30-ish cubits. Yeah, about 30-ish cubits from where this porch portion ends to the end of the stairwell. So, yeah, roughly about 30 cubits. So let's again pop that in here. We'll do 30 times 18 divided by 12 gives us 45 feet. So to get that, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the sort of the bottom of it where it starts, and we'll measure out 45 feet roughly. So let's do that, 45 feet, and you'll see it's drawn us a line here, and that means that we will take that line and we will draw it across the polygon. There we go, and we can extend these lines there. And just like that, we've now built the inner cage for Solomon's temple. That's excellent. So, right over here is what you're going to see is the porch and the stair column, and then in here is the innermost section of Solomon's temple. So, again, back to the blueprint here, and you can see it kind of goes in, because it's not a full rectangle, but looks like two rectangles put together, which means that we need to estimate how big that increase is, or how big that sort of dip is in the model itself. So if we use this porch measurement right here that says about 10 cubits, and we pull it here, we can roughly assume that that's about 10 cubits as well. So when we do that, okay, we'll go back into the model, pull this up, close this up, 10 cubits, so 10 times 18, divide by 12, gets us 15 feet. So we know that it goes in 15 feet from this line here. So let's erase this line here, because that's just a measurement that we don't need anymore. Pan in, and from here we'll go back to the measuring tape, and now we measure 15 feet in. So 15 there, like that. Oh, excuse me. Not 15 inches, 15 feet. Oh. There we go. And we'll do the same here. Okay. So now we have the rest of the model, or the rest of the basic layout here. So now what we need to do is we'll draw a line from here to the end of the stairwell, and the same thing here, like that. And now you can see that there are what appears to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different shapes. And with those 5 shapes, what we do is we will start the building of the Solomon's Temple part. So now let's focus more on this side here. So since we know that these two 15-foot parts are no longer needed, we can delete them. So just like that. And now you can see within the model, we have a basic layout. And if you look at the photo that we're using to base it off of, it's starting to look a little bit like this part here. So that's good. It means we're getting places. Now, we're also going to assume that the stairs were roughly about 10 cubits wide, or 10 cubits deep. So we'll estimate that, and then this was about 20 cubits here. That seems about a proper estimate. So what we'll do is let us build a line. Let's pull the calculator up again, clear that, and let's get our estimate. So about 15 feet. We go to here, and 15 feet. So that's where the stairs are, so we can draw a line. Mark that as the stairs, and we can delete this bit here. Okay, we can also delete this because that's not going to be, that's the rest of the actual temple itself. We'll need that. And then, we will, oops. So we know that this is the stairs, so we can mark this as the stairwell here. This is going to be the porch, and then this is going to be the interior. So now that we have that, and we can assume that that's about 5 cubits. Now this wall, since it is a surrounding, we need to make sure that that's about 5 cubits. So we need to erase 5 cubits from the model of this wall here. So we'll delete, and we'll go 5 times 18 divided by 12 gives us 7.5. And we'll do 7 inches like that. There we go, that's our scale. Same thing here. Like that, we'll draw the line. Like that. And then we just need to erase that part and this. That. Okay, and then we need to draw the line to this point here and to this point here. And we should be able to, nope, maybe not. Sometimes the measurements will stay, that's fine. And now we have the actual bit of Solomon's thing there. So now we need to do the stairs. And the stairs are going to be pretty simple. What we need to do is we need to find out that that was roughly, I think we estimated 10 cubits. So we take that, clear this out, and we'll do 10 times 18 divided by 12. 15 feet. So we know that there's 15 feet. We can assume that there's 9 steps leading up to the temple, which means that we need to do 15 divided by 9, which gets us 1.66 feet roughly per step, which means that we need to convert that to inches, and that gets us 20 inches per step. Okay, that's pretty simple. So we just need to measure out 9 divisions of 20. So we'll start on the stair axis here. We'll go 20 inches, and we just do that roughly 9 times. Like such. Okay, and if we just count that, that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 divisions. Lovely. So now, what we're going to do is we will pan here, and we have our measurement lines. So we'll take that, and we will just make these lines. And these will represent the stairs. Just like that. Okay, and we will erase measurement marks. And since we can see in the actual photo here that it's sort of it caves in, the steps cave in, we know that we need to make those different. I sort of took some personal thoughts here. I mean, I took sort of my own liberty here to assume, and I was able to assume it was roughly about 4.5 inches from each step. So that's what we're going to do. And we'll go back to the model, and we know that we need to start from the top and go in because it is a concave step. So we start up top and we'll go out from there. So let's go to our measurement tool. Let's zoom in, start from the top, and measure 4 point. I'm sorry, was it? Hold on a second. Let me just compare this to my baseline model that I'm using. That is 3 feet 6 inches, or roughly 42 inches from edge to edge, or 5 foot. So we need to, from 5 foot to 7.5, because that's, okay, there to there, that's 7.13. Okay, so there we go. Oh, and again, if we just want to look at this from a large scale, we can start to see the temple actually starting to take place. And it's starting to look now like a temple. So, let us find out. Yeah. Okay. 4.5 inches. 4.5 inches. Excuse me. So 4.5 inches. And yes, it's really that small. I'm just going to do this 9 times. go. Let's just erase these measurements here and finish up the line. I'm going to go a little bit silent for the next couple of minutes as I finish up the model. So if you need some assistance trying to figure out what I'm doing, let me know in the chat, A, or B, just look back at this. We will post this up online when it's done, and you can sort of piece together what we're doing. So I'm going to do that, sit back, I guess maybe enjoy the music a little bit, and we'll get back to that soon. Now I'm going to take that and erase some bits here. And if I just pull the top view here, you can see all of a sudden it's, if you squint just a little bit, it's really starting to look now like an actual building. And that's good. That means that we're making progress. Okay, now what we'll do is we will start with the columns. So we'll take our rectangle tool, press R, and to change it to a circle tool you press C. And all of a sudden you can see it's switched over. And we will go back to our model and we will just check what it looks like. And we can see here, let's estimate roughly about 2 cubits, so about 36 inches away. We will do 2 and 2, so 36 inches from each side. So let's take our measuring tape, go to this edge here, measure 36 inches, right there, same thing here, and we will take our measurement tapes again, start from that point and go 36 inches, and here, same thing. Okay, so now at least we know where to. And we'll assume that that's roughly about a cubit wide, so 18-inch diameter. Like that. And we'll erase the measurements there. So we get our column. Okay? So now, again, I know it doesn't look it right now because if we go into a three-dimensional view, it's a flat plane, but right now we're just building the blueprint, and that's good. That's what we need to do. So let's go back, standard view to the top, and we'll get this again, and we'll start to look again what we need to do. Alright. Porch entrance is 20 cubits, 1 cubit from there. Okay.
I've been wandering early and late from New York City to the Golden Gate, and it don't look
And
like I'll ever stop my wandering.
say about 1.5
My
cubits.
daddy was an engineer, my brother drives a hack, my sister takes in laundry while the baby
And
boys
if we
are
do math, 1.5 cubits, we'll just use a calculator.
I'll
18,
never stop my wandering.
27 inches.
I've been in the army, I worked on a farm, and all I've got to show is the muscle in my arm, and it don't look like I'll ever stop my wandering. My mom, she died when I was young. My daddy took to stealing and he got hung. And it don't look like I'll ever stop my wandering. Snakes in the ocean, eels in the sea. I let a red-headed woman make a fool out of me. And it don't
Excuse me a second.
look like I'll ever stop my wandering. Well, I've been wandering early and late from the New York City to the Golden Gate, and it don't look like I'll ever stop my wandering. No, it don't look like
5 and 5, 10 cubit.
He likes to stick to the bushes, tends to avoid the street. But he rides my Eldorado,
7 foot 5.
when he comes to town. You know he's out there somewhere, trying to track you down. Look up
Oop.
in the sky,
No wonder it wasn't letting me.
mama, that's the one, yeah. See the mighty profile, block the noonday sun. He comes from the heart of darkness, 1,000 miles from here. Now that's a land where they understand what a woman might like to hear. You know that it loves you, baby, for what you really are. His love is burning hot as a big old 10-cent cigar. Most of y'all have seen a gorilla in a cage at the local zoo. He mostly sits around contemplating all the things that he'd prefer to do. He dreams about the world outside from behind those bars of steel. And no one seems to understand about the heartache the man can feel. The people stop and stare, but nobody seems to care. It don't seem right somehow. It just don't seem fair. No, 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 no. Tweet, tweet, doody doo. Come on, baby. He's still a gorilla.
Actually, no, that's about 5 cubits. 5 cubits we're gonna do. So we will make that. We'll adjust that.
Gosh
5
almighty,
cubits, 7
baby.
foot 5.
Yes, indeed. You supply the satisfied, and I'll supply the need.
Let's get rid of
I
these.
can't help the way I feel, though I know just for a man to fall, for a man to fall. Heaven knows I love my woman, just bound to fuss and fight.
Alright, we're back.
Man to fall. Now me and my wife, we got the rest of our life to make this thing right. You and me will only see tonight. so unwise, and love has no eyes. And it took a while for a fool to see what his friends were on about. Well, I was a fool to care. I was a fool to care. I was a fool to care. Yeah, but I don't care. Even if I was a fool, I'm still in love with you. Imagining your face, it almost fills the empty space before me. I can see your eyes and almost hear your lovely lies. Oh yeah, I wish I was an old man and love was through with me. I wish I was a baby on my mama's knee. I wish I was a freight train moving down the line, just to keep in track of time without all these memories. Well, I was a fool to care. Well, I was a fool to care. Well, I was a fool to care. Hey, but I don't care, even if I was a fool. I'm still